All right, we're going to be switching our conversation now, and going on to the economy. Talking recession. I think I'm being joined via Zoom now by Debo Onifade. Debo, are you there? How are you doing?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Very well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. We're here again talking recession. This one seems deeper than it was in 2016. Second time in 5 years. A lot of people have said that, COVID was to blame this time, but there are people who said we could have been better prepared. How bad are things?
So this was inevitable. The whole world got caught off guard. The UK shrunk by over 20% in Q2 last year. The US shrunk by over 9%. So clearly, this was going to happen. But the Nigerian economy has always been fragile. The fact that we run our numbers with very incredible assumptions. This year we have 36, our budget's about $34.6 billion. Assumption is 2.18 million barrels per day times $57. And it's clear that we're not going to do 2.8 million times 57, 365 days a year. You have to assume that maybe you have to assume that maybe some. Hello, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, so you have to assume that you're going to lose a lot of income to the fact that you will not be able to deliver 2.18 million barrels per day throughout the year, and yet you have corruption. You're going to lose some money to corruption. You have you're spending 20% on debt servicing. So overall, we've always had a very small economy. And I always tell people, let's stop fooling ourselves that we have Nigeria's economic fundamentals are strong. You have a country like UAE that's doing about $17 billion budget for federal budget, less than 10 million people. And Nigeria is doing about 35 billion for 200 million people. Dubai alone is doing maybe $18 billion for less 3 million people. So we don't have enough. We've never had enough. We've always been on the edge. And anytime there is little problem around the world, we will always suffer. We're struggling to sell our crude oil. A lot of people are not saying this. Nigeria is struggling big time to earn from our crude oil. Sometimes we have our crude oil stock on the sea for weeks and months. So those are always challenges that will remain even when we get out of recession. And any little thing would always cause a recession. So I'll say we're in a very bad shape. And I don't believe that we're going to come out of it in Q1 next year. Probably going to extend to Q2 also.
Okay, not very, very bright forecast there, but we're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll talk more about how we can get out of this and if we will. See you after this. All right, welcome back. If you're Nigerian, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you should know that, yes, we're back in recession. The economy has tanked for the second time in 5 years. Before the break, we're talking about this with our guest, Debo, who joined us via Zoom in Texas. But I'm joined now by Gospel Obele. And how are you doing, Gospel? I don't want to complain. I want to find solutions, and I want to know the way forward. This is the second time we're going down, like I said, in 5 years. We're out of it 2016. Before the break, Debo was saying he doubts we're going to be out of it even in Q1 next year. It might be Q2 or Q3 even, before we start seeing signs of a proper recovery. Do you see it being that long? And how do we do it without talking about oil?
That's a very interesting question, two in one actually. Yes, so it may take a longer time, in all honesty, because now you find out that there are more costs challenges in the economy. So you look at the power tariffs, the cost of fuel and cost of logistics, and then you have a situation where supply cannot meet demand as a result of basically logistic issues, talking about agriculture and all the likes. Now, what all these things do is that it increases the cost of mobility, transportation and all the likes. And when you infuse that into the cost of living, it goes high. So what happens is that when you have a recession and there's high cost of living, over the coming months, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Now, when you have that and you don't have the structural buffers to hold the economy and the cost of living, to control all of these things, it means that it's going to take a longer time to get out of recession.
Yeah. I know COVID has been blamed for a lot of this. A lot of countries are in recession. Australia went down for the first time after holding the longest record for, I think, 27 years. So yes, we can blame COVID, but is it fair to also talk about government here? Because a lot of countries have said that the only way economies are going to come back is the small and medium sector.
Exactly.
You know, because that is what runs the economy literally.
Exactly.
A lot of countries have put out, you know, funds and just like, you know, ways to trigger the economy back. We didn't have any of that here in Nigeria. A lot of these businesses have gone down through this. How do we come back when we don't have a government who has sort of stimulated the economy enough for small and medium businesses to thrive? And secondly, those that have been hit by COVID, you know, have even gone down even more without any buffers for them.
So quite frankly, a lot has been done, you know, to curtail COVID impact on the economy, especially on businesses. So there's even a 75 billion naira CBN fund right now for youth investment and all the likes. So one of the things is communication, right? A lot of all these businesses are not aware of what's currently happening. And then, of course, there's a gap between the stakeholders, the key stakeholders, and the businesses and the like. So, and there's another perspective to this story, right? A lot of SMEs are not even aware how much of impact COVID-19 has hit on their businesses or cannot define what impact means, all right? And those that even have what it takes to scale through this period are failing because of that inability to technically engage, to understand and assess the business where it's currently at now. So there's a lot of investments, but the challenge really is they are probably not channeled to where it impacts the businesses the most. All right, so if you take the CBN fund and all of these things, CBN has really done a lot for the real sector this year as it pertains to cushioning the impact of COVID. But the question is, even LSCF, you know, the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, but the question is, the funds we're channeling, how are they being disseminated to the SMEs?
Exactly.
How is there a science, all right, to the design? Are we asking ourselves, you know, are we even mapping the SMEs correctly who really need these funds? And where do they need it the most? There are some SMEs who need equipment financing, not even raw cash. There are SMEs who need access to finance solutions, not even raw cash. So there are different pockets of these problems that even needs to be unboxed. So yes, there are funding, there are solutions out there. But the question is, how are they being deployed? Is there a design process, R&D process, well-informed process to how it's been deployed? And SMEs themselves are not even aware of what's happening.
Let me come back to you now, Debo, who's joining us online. Debo, you heard what he said. The government policies, you think, are they good enough? And what are your thoughts on how we can come out of this?
So first of all, I'd like to talk about the 75 billion. So I always tell people it's not about the money. Most times it's about knowledge. You're talking about small, you know, those guys, the mechanic. You're talking about the barber. You're talking about very, very small business owners that don't even understand business. You're talking about 28-year-olds. That 75 billion is supposed to be for very young people. There's an age limit. And these guys don't even understand how to create a business plan. When UK did something like that during the last major recession, there was a clear strategy for training, funding, you know, for training. How do you help these people to create their business plan? In Nigeria today, a lot of businesses are folding up, a lot of small businesses, and I care more about those people because that's the engine room. When people talk about SME in Nigeria, banks, they don't talk about those small guys. They talk about people making 100 million, you know, 500 million as SMEs. I'm talking about those very small guys that are closing their businesses in 2 years, in 5 years, in 3 years. And the state governments need to be more actively engaged in training these guys. I tell people that, you know, Ogun State or Lagos State, for example, there's nothing wrong in gathering all these guys together, the educated young people, as well as those artisans, you know, provide free training to them. If they don't speak English, get Yoruba interpreters, explain to them how to run a business. We must have businesses run 10, 20, 30, 40 years successfully in this country. Second, third generation. You don't have to work for the banks. You don't have to work for big companies. We have to empower these very, very, very vulnerable small companies by providing knowledge, more importantly than money. I can guarantee the 75 billion is going to get to wrong people, you know, either by stealing or by giving to young people that are not prepared on how to use the money. So that's the first thing for me. We need to train them free of charge. And I, for example, I say, I'll be willing to be a free resource person. The states will find volunteers who have business experience, who can provide this free training. Second point I want to talk about is beyond COVID. Two key points. Nigeria needs to stop paying lip service to agriculture. We need to get the young people to agree. I always give a suggestion. I put out in my book that if you have NYC core members every year, you need to provide incentive. If I was leading it, I would probably say, let's have those that are ready to go to the farms. Let's pay them double, 60,000. And if you're ready to go to the farm for the 1 year, we'll pay you double. We'll train you. We'll help you to understand agriculture. And at the end of the 1 year, you have a choice: stay in agri, get some help. But if you want to go back to, the other sectors can go. But you have provided that 1 year extra cash plus the training to help them to. If we don't fix agri, especially being able to feed ourselves, I'm not talking about export right now. We have to be able to feed ourselves in this country. 200 million is a huge number for us to be able to really grow the GDP significantly.
Okay, because we need to wrap now. I just need to get very quickly one sentence, and I mean it, one sentence. What should a Nigerian be thinking of right now going into the new year? Very quickly.
I think we have to think about digital economy. Digital export is going to be a big thing in Nigeria in coming years. If you're in school, if you're a young person, that's an area. Digital economy, digital export is going to be an area of growth for the next 5 years in Nigeria. Agric is going to be an area of growth, and I think people and government need to be very, very involved in that.
Okay, thank you. Gospel, just very quickly now, short-term plans. Like I said, 2021 is around the corner. We're deep in it. COVID has wreaked the havoc on everybody. What should I, as a Nigerian, be doing in the new year?
Yeah, so there are many uncertainties ahead in 2021. I think it boils down to the individual, like you mentioned, So the individual first needs to take a cue and reassess. So if you run a business, you need to ask critical and you need to ask the right and the hard questions, all right, to identify where you need help and how you need to move on from where you are. Yeah. All right, then begin to define what kind of help you need. All right, it's not necessarily all about funding, because if you give funds to people who do not understand the route to market or where the business currently is at, that fund would literally be drained off, doing the wrong things and all of that. So I think a lot of businesses need to step up their games and understand that now it's a scenario-based style of doing business. The era of 5-year business plan, 2-year business plan has gone extinct, all right? You need to come down to the era of business models, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year. Define the state and where do you need help and how do you need to seek for this help that you're...
Yeah. I mean, like I said, COVID is around. If COVID extends, let's assume, we all say God forbid, so Q2 next year, what happens?
I think for me, COVID only amplifies the challenges we already have as a nation, all right? So COVID or no COVID, there are basic things that need to be in place so that if COVID chooses to extend for whatever reason, we have strong structural buffers. So as it is now, the economy is very vulnerable, all right? It's like a ladder of development. We're on the lower rung of that ladder. Anything that happens on the global space, public health, whatever it is, it bounces heavily on nations on that lower rung of the ladder. So we need strong structural buffers. The fiscal side and the monetary side have to really coordinate themselves firmly. I think the CBN is taking a whole lot. I think the CBN is overstretched and they're really doing a whole lot at the same time. But the fiscal policy and the monetary policy have to be properly synchronized. Policies have to be more coherent. They have to be more consistent, all right? They have to reach the common man, all right? And all of these initiatives and all the likes that are being rolled out, there has to be a strong, proper and designed strategy to get to these people, and then the right institutional capacity to execute them. Of course, citizens have to be more active in the process of engagement, all right, and in trying to define what's really important for them.
Thank you very much, Gospel. Thank you very much, Debo, for joining us. I still have so many questions. I want to talk about the Naira, but unfortunately we can't. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter. Robin Minds now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Robin Minds when you tweet at us. I'll see you next Sunday.